What does a Cam Thomas extension look like? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back in to the Brooklyn Boys Show alongside Connor Long. I'm Josh Woolever. Today we will be breaking down everything related to Brooklyn's biggest star as a restricted free agent this offseason. How you doing today, Connor?
Josh, doing well. Looking forward to talking BK Hoops and Cam Thomas here with you on this Thursday evening.
Absolutely. So, just a quick rundown. Obviously, he had the injury problems last year. Restricted free agent heading into this offseason. That means the Nets can match from any outside deals that he may receive. For me, I'm looking at a short term, 2, possibly 3 year deal in that, 20, $35 million range. Somewhere in between that. I talked about this a little bit in an interview coming out tomorrow night, actually, with Eric Slater, and he talked about how Cam will probably be looking for a shorter term deal so that by the time he hits the market again as a free agent, he'll be at the peak of his prime, looking to get paid the most amount of money. And frankly, right now, the Nets are pretty much. The Nets do have the most cap space in the NBA, and they're probably the freest in terms of going out and re signing a guy that you need. So I think that it makes sense that Brooklyn has the money to pay Cam Thomas this kind of money again. He probably won't be looking for something too long term to sign off on because right now the Nets don't have any competition to sign him and the Nets aren't a competitive team. Connor, your initial thoughts. What do we do with CT?
A lot to unpack there. I'll kind of start what you mentioned there with the injury concerns. Obviously, Cam Thomas struggled to stay on the court last year. 25 games, 23 starts. I mean, availability is the best ability, but at the same time, Cam Thomas really showed his worth in that short span of games, and he showed it in 2023, he showed it in 2022, and so on and so forth. I think Cam Thomas is an incredible basketball player, and here's what I'll say. Him being out most of last year, I think, is a blessing in disguise for us, because if he plays 70, 75 games last year and he continues to replicate those numbers, putting up 20, 25 points a night, I think there's a significant market for him this offseason. Now, as a restricted free agent, given the fact he played just only upwards of 20 games last season, there's not much of a market for him, and the Nets have a prime opportunity to retain him and give him an extension so he can stay here in Brooklyn. And let me get this out of the way. Cam Thomas is a Brooklyn Net next year. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't think there's any market for him this year in free agency. And like I said, I think that's a blessing in disguise for Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets front office. As for what I'd be willing to give him, I don't want to give him the Tyrese Maxey 5 years, $200+ million super max deal. Not only do I think he hasn't hit that mark yet to really be paid that amount of money. I don't think he wants that. I don't think he wants to be locked in to Brooklyn, like you mentioned, for more than 3-4 years. A comp that I think a lot of people are overlooking is Anthony Simons with the Portland Trail Blazers. This is a guy who averaged similar numbers to Cam Thomas, around 20, 22 points a game, not too many rebounds, not too many assists. Similar age. Anthony Simons just turned 24 years old, so in that similar range. And he got 4 years, $100 million. I'm going to look in that range. I'll say what the Nets and Cam Thomas ultimately agree on is something in the range of 3 years, $75 million. I think that's very, very fair for a guy like Thomas. That's $25 million a year, a 3 year deal. I think that's exactly what he wants. So, like you mentioned, once this deal expires, he's 26 years old out on the open market, and that's where he could land potentially a Tyrese Maxey type super max deal if he continues to play at this pace. So I'm going to go 3 years, $75 million. I think that's ultimately what both sides agree upon here.
I agree, and that's a fair deal for both sides. That's right within my 20 to 30 a year range, 3 years, 75. If I had to guess, I think it's also going to be 3 years. I think he's going to bargain for a little bit more, just knowing how much cap space the Nets have to work with this season. And I think that Brooklyn wants Cam Thomas back so badly for a few reasons. Number one, he's a homegrown talent, right? This is a guy that you took a risk on with a late 20s pick, and he has beyond worked out for you. When he's healthy, when he's on the court, he can hit from anywhere at any time. You can watch Cam Thomas bag work highlights for 10 minutes, and you can see 10 minutes worth of different shots different type of separation creation. He can
Finishing
do
through
anything,
contact.
finishing through contact and driving in the lane as not a huge guard. I mean, he has so many versatile assets to his game, and he's honestly just a super fun player to watch. You know, he's flashy, but at the same time, he's low key and he doesn't attract too much attention to himself. I think he is a guy that you want to have around long term. He's a huge threat from deep. There's so much to like about Cam Thomas. I get that there's not a lot of, bargaining power, a lot of places for Cam Thomas to say, well, these guys are offering me more. If you can't match that, I'm going to go to this place because, frankly, the Nets have the cap space to outbid anybody else on the market. So, but even though I think that Cam Thomas is going to ask for a little bit more, I don't think the Nets want to get on bad terms with him. I think they just want to say yes, have the future look bright for him. And I think that plays a role in when it comes back around when we're talking about this 3 years down the line and it's the year 2028. And if the Nets have done the right things with a couple of their draft picks and they're a legit contender in the East, I don't think they want to be thinking, well, if we didn't give him too much trouble back in 2025, whether we were going to give him 5 or 10 more million dollars. I think they want to be on perfect terms with Cam Thomas, give him what he wants, and honestly give him the reins to this offense, Connor.
I mean, Cam Thomas plays 70, 75 games. He's an all-NBA player. That's
I
who he
agree.
is.
And honestly, it's a blessing in disguise that he's not going to cost them this much on the market. It's a blessing in disguise that they even have the 8th pick, considering their lottery luck. If Cam Thomas is on the floor, we could be looking at, the 11th, the 12th pick?
What I will say here regarding Cam Thomas and his status and the way the Nets have really been able to kind of facilitate this team in this rebuild with all the cap space and having enough room to sign Cam Thomas. It's crazy to think, and you look at what happened with the big three and that all going up in flames. It's crazy to think what the Nets have really turned the big three into.
Yep.
You flipped Kevin Durant for a guy who's a role player on your team right now who might be traded for a couple first-round picks. You traded for a guy, Mikal Bridges, who you got 6 first-round picks for.
Oh, my, ridiculous.
At the Kyrie Irving trade, you landed Spencer Dinwiddie, who was somewhat of a role player for, a couple seasons here with this team.
Right.
And obviously the nostalgia factor coming in as well, his time with the Nets in, that 2017 to 2019 range.
Yes.
You brought in a guy in Dorian Finney-Smith, who was a leader in this locker room, a guy who could shoot the 3 ball in the corner, a guy who you flipped to bring back D'Angelo Russell, Maxwell Lewis, and a couple draft selections. So what I'm kind of rooting this all back to is what we're talking about right now. We're really fortunate that we're even talking about this because Sean Marks and the Nets front office don't handle the management of that big three correctly. The Nets are in a spot where they're, minus $100 million in cap space. The Nets are in a spot where they don't have any draft picks like that, like last year, for example. The Nets are in a really, really good spot right now, and that's what I really like. This team is one big free agent signing, which I think could be Miles Turner, and hitting on your draft picks, your first-round draft selections over the next 2 years from being a legit contender in the East. You lock up Cam Thomas, you bring in a Trey Johnson, you have your 2 guards locked in perfectly. You sign Miles Turner in free agency. You bring in a big man with one of your 3 first-round draft picks this year. The Nets are top dogs in the East in just a few years. I know that sounds crazy, but when you really break it down, it's not. I think the Nets struck gold last offseason, bringing in Jordi Fernandez as their head coach. Just 1 year in, I already firmly believe that Jordi Fernandez is the guy here. I mean, after the Nets fired Kenny Atkinson, they were kind of all over the place. They tried bringing in Steve Nash. That didn't work, fired him in season. Jacques Vaughn comes in as the interim. He's ultimately a spark plug for this Nets team and gets them to the playoffs. And then Jacques Vaughn gets an extension, then fired in season. 2 years later, Kevin Ali comes in and he tries to work some magic to no avail. And now Jordi Fernandez is the Brooklyn Nets head coach. And I think this is the first time since I've been watching Brooklyn Nets basketball, or a long time really, pre-Kenny Atkinson, where I can look and I'm comfortable in the head coach I have and the assistants, in my opinion, that he has around him. I think Juwan Howard got Juwan Johnson, the tight end for the New Orleans Saints, mixed up there. I think Juwan Howard was a really sneaky under the radar addition for Coach Jordy last year, who played a big role. I mean, you look at some of the Nets assistants being, trying to be poached by the Phoenix Suns. Ultimately, they didn't. They hired former Nets assistant Jordan Ott. Like, Brian Keefe was hired to be the Washington Wizards head coach. I really, really like what the Nets have been able to build on the coaching side of things.
Look, Connor, you just said so much, and I think you're right. Like, this all has to root back to gratitude for the fact that we didn't make a finals appearance with those three guys on the roster is in and of itself just feels like the epitome of what the Nets have been since they've moved to Brooklyn.
But they cleaned it up
And
the
it
right way.
sums it up. I mean, they cleaned it. They could not have cleaned it up better. You're absolutely right. How do you turn, what was it at the time, 30, some mid-30s Kevin Durant into 12 first-round picks?
4 years removed from an ACL tear as well.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, talk about a guy recovering well from an ACL tear. You can't do it much better than Kevin Durant did.
Player in the NBA. Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is a top 10 all-time NBA player. We can have that debate for another time. I think Kevin Durant is a top 10 NBA player in the game's history. Like, Kevin Durant, in my opinion,
he's close.
He's in the top 3. Shaq's obviously number 1. He's in my top 3 for most dominant players in NBA history.
I mean,
this guy is such a dominant shoot from anywhere on the court. The guy's 7 foot. Yep. The guy can grab every rebound. The guy can dish it out. He can bring you a triple-double night in and night out. I mean, talents like Kevin Durant come in the NBA once every 20, once every 30 years. He's the definition of a generational talent.
And I think that's 3 of those guys on your team at once.
And I think that's why the Nets don't get flamed as much in the national media as they should be.
I mean,
still 3 years removed for that big 3.
Connor, you talk about how bad you think Sean Marks has done. I don't care how bad Sean Marks has done. His ability, he was a magician working out of that big 3 deal, getting Bridges, then flipping him for 5 first-round picks. The Nets had Jay Crowder for, an hour before they flipped him for 4 second-round picks?
I think 6 second-rounders.
4, I think it was, but something
picks.
Ridiculous on that front. But yeah, I mean, they maneuvered out of that. But this all roads lead to this team being terrible.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll give them. Here's what I'll do. If we go grade by grade, I give the Harden trade an F. I give
where they lost.
Yeah, I give the KD trade, given the Bridges trade, an A+, and I give the Kyrie trade a B-.
That's fair. I wouldn't give the Harden trade an F- because at that time, looking back in 2020 hindsight, but
I thought the Nets would
win 3 chips in a row, Connor.
I was at school when that went down, and I was hyped. I was like, "This is such a great deal!" Like, I truly thought Ben Simmons was going to come in and be the 2021 Ben Simmons that we knew.
21. That's about as many games as he played as a Net. I mean, it was ridiculous. But, I mean, and then all roads lead down to the path of Cam Thomas taking over the reins on this team. The Nets are set up for a beautiful future, right? This is the exact opposite of what happened after the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce deal, where the Nets were by far the worst team in the league, winning 12 basketball games, and the Celtics ended up with the first overall pick because of how many 5 first-round picks they traded in that deal. I mean, whatever the heck it ended up being, that was an absolute disaster. But hey, now it feels like we can do the same thing with the Knicks. Could the Knicks be collapsing in front of our eyes? They just fired their head coach. I think that big core gets disbanded in 3 years, and then the Nets own their future till 2031. I mean, that sounds extremely promising. You hand Cam Thomas the reins, at least for the next 3 years. If you really see something in that time,
go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
That you hate, then you think about it next time he's a free agent. But you get him in here for 3 years. I think by that time the Nets are easy, strong contenders in the East. And that time the rosters build up. You're right, Jordy Fernandez has this team. It's his for the taking until until 20 years from now when he decides to retire for some reason. But I just think Cam Thomas has so much potential, and he can lead the Nets out of this.
You know who I think he's a free agent, but I think he'll be back on this team. Who isn't nearly as talented of a. You made the Knicks. You mentioned the Knicks there, so I got to throw in like somewhat of a Knicks comp. Someone who I don't think is nearly as talented as Josh Hart, but I think kind of brings that same spark plug energy all over the court, flying around.
Wait. Can I guess? Zaire Williams?
Nope.
Keon Johnson.
Bingo.
Well, wait, hold on. I swear 2 weeks ago you were hating on Keon Johnson.
Oh, I don't think he's a good basketball player. Oh, no. I don't think he's a good player by any means. I'm saying I think he brings that energy. I think he's that veteran presence who kind of
absolutely.
brings
And I think Jordy Fernandez truly values that. And I don't even think it was because he was a first-year head coach and he was looking for guys to step up. I think Jordy Fernandez truly values that, and that's going to be one of his
I love the
advantages.
experiment. Like the Nets have always I think the Long Island Nets system is underratedly one of the best in the NBA G League. Like there's guys who have been able to for multiple years now. Like Cam Thomas started off by dropping 45 on Long Island. Drew Timme, who played NBA games, even going back to Kessler Edwards, who I know is polarizing in the community. I love me some Kessler Edwards when, it's fun when he's able to go 6 of 8 from 3-point range and pick up 4 or 5 rebounds with a +8 rating. And then it's not fun when he's 0 for 8 from 3-point range with a -6 rating. But I like the Tyrese Maxey last year. He reminded me a lot of what Kessler Edwards was able to do. He's just he's a smaller, speedier guy who's able to get back and play defense for you. Like I really, really like the Nets, the way the Nets have been able to facilitate the Long Island to Brooklyn. I will say though, if it comes down to Keon Johnson or Zaire Williams, I'm giving Zaire Williams the minutes any day of the week. I think he's a better basketball player.
Yeah. That debate, I think that's an extremely interesting one, and we could honestly have a whole episode on what the bench rotation, who they should bring back, and what that should look like divided minutes-wise. But I think that Zaire Williams, for a big guy like himself with a huge wingspan, brings so much plus defensively, and he has good hops. Also being able to shoot the 3 seems a little bit unfair. Keon Johnson at times had it going from 3, not as consistent. But yes, there were times he was
shot like
streaky.
Let me pull up the exact number. I don't want to misspeak, but like his 3-point shooting was so bad.
He was streaky, but
31.4. I was gonna say 26%. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, he was not that bad. He wasn't like Day'Ron Sharpe.
I mean, let's be real. Keon Johnson is a G League caliber basketball player.
End of the bench. For the Nets, for a contending team, maybe not. But for the Nets, he could certainly.
If Keon Johnson is on the Indiana Pacers or the Minnesota Timberwolves, he is in their G League. He's on their G League team.
And that feels fair. Keon Johnson's. I feel like this is a bad comparison because this other guy is a much better shooter and plays more minutes. But like Keon Johnson, just like his body type is like short, little, scrubby hustle guy. Kind of reminds me of
TJ McConnell. We just said that at the same time. Oh my god!
But McConnell can shoot well from 3, and he's first or second off the bench.
Reminds me of like Jose Alvarado.
Alvarado, or like out of his prime, Grayson Allen.
Grayson wasn't as speedy.
Like on the decline.
Grayson could shoot
Grayson Allen on the decline.
Grayson could shoot the 3 ball his whole career. He's been able to shoot the 3 ball. Forever.
I know. That's what I said besides.
If he shakes free from the crosstown rivals, I want a Landry Shamet reunion.
Oh my. And see, I think this could also get its own episode. I love Landry Shamet as a net. Like,
he's going to give you a +8 rating every single night.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's crazy that Tibbs didn't use him more in the playoffs. That's insane.
I was telling my friends at school, since game 60 of the regular season, why isn't Landry Shamet playing 30 minutes a night for your team?
Because Tom Thibodeau doesn't know how to use his bench. That's the short answer.
Tom Thibodeau, I just don't think he's a great basketball coach.
Completely agree. I mean, we've seen so many crash outs from the Knicks fan base. It's like, dude, you had 4 stars in your starting lineup.
What I would have done if I were I would not have fired Tibbs. If I were the Knicks, I would not have fired Tibbs this offseason. I would have beefed up the roster in free agency and given him one more go with more than a 7-man rotation.
But like, I feel like you run the risk. Like, I feel like that's what Denver did, and they realized 50 games into the season that they
Well,
didn't
Denver
want
was
Mike
over
Malone
500.
anymore.
Denver was 50 games. It was multiple games over 500 when they fired Mike Malone.
I know, which
Like that was stupid.
disrupts your
That
entire
reminds me of
organization heading into the most important part of the season.
when the what is that? That reminds me of when the Bucks fired Adrian Griffin after they were
Or
like,
Doc Rivers.
well, no, they fired Adrian Griffin after they were like 30 and something.
No, it's because Giannis went and cried to the media, and star player gets what star player wants.
I know. Just looking at it from afar, it's crazy to think a team fired their head coach after Eastern Conference Finals berth.
Yeah.
If the Knicks had the Nets, and I'm not saying the Nets caliber players are better than everyone on the Knicks bench. What I'm saying is that if the Knicks had as deep of the Nets rotation, and their head coach was Taylor Jenkins,
Jordy Fernandez.
Or Jordy. Taylor Jenkins, though, is someone I want. I want Taylor Jenkins. I think Taylor Jenkins is I don't want him because I hate the Knicks, but Taylor Jenkins, I think, is the best head coach option for the Knicks this offseason. If they Taylor Jenkins as their head coach and is a 10-12 man rotation like the Nets, I think they get past Indiana.
Indiana knew how to use their bench better. Indiana knew how to play as a team better. New York, there was 5 guys out there all wanting to make themselves the star, all wanting to hit the big 3. Indiana wanted to make the finals as a
The
team.
funniest thing is we hear all these Knicks fans saying, oh, they're still gelling. But isn't that the whole thing? They all played at Villanova together, the Nova Knicks. Isn't that the whole thing? I'm telling you, after firing Tibbs, I think firing Tibbs again, I would have waited one more year. Things can unravel quickly.
Yeah, and the Nets have the entire Knicks future, so if they can't afford it.
If the Knicks hire Dan Hurley, let's say, which I think is the worst thing have you seen the way Dan Hurley handles himself on this? I think that's the worst.
Every time there's like an obvious foul call, like driving to the lane, guy bumps into him, clear and obvious, use the hands too much, and he like runs on the court and like gets teed up. God forbid he gets teed up. Oh my gosh, that guy's gonna get a heart attack.
Hurley comes in as the head coach, let's say. They win 35 games, 40 games, which I think is a possibility.
That's a stretch.
I don't think they're a 50-win team.
If they keep the roster together.
I don't think they're a 50-win team. They get rid of Thibodeau, they bring in like a... I
completely disagree. I just don't think they're good enough to make a deep playoff run.
If they don't win... Okay, what was their record this past year?
It's like 56.
51. They were just over 50 wins.
Okay, never mind.
This team wasn't a 60-win team. They were 51-31 last year. They could easily win 40 games and be a mess. That's the case after the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau, who Jalen Brunson's been advocating for. That could lead to a Jalen Brunson trade request.
Well, Jalen Brunson already took a huge pay cut.
Well, that could lead to anything. That could lead to the whole team unraveling. That could lead to tearing everything down and rebuilding it without any first-round picks.
It just reminds me, Tom Thibodeau just playing all the Knicks stars all the time and not using his bench. Just reminds me, like, when Steve Nash was the Nets head coach and he would let Kevin Durant drop the plays with the game on the line. He would literally let Kevin Durant, like, if you listen in on some of those things, he would be like, all right, Kai, you're getting the inbound pass, and, whatever, we'll have a high pick and roll from Andre, and, we'll swing it to Harden on the way.
Andre Drummond, baby.
Andre Drummond, there's a lot of Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond. We can bring this up. Kelly Oubre, Andre Drummond, and eating the Paul George contract because of how bad it is.
Yeah.
And 19 would get the Nets 3. That's what word on the street said.
What I'll say about Andre Drummond, to bring back the nostalgia factor here, he was such a good rebounder. I remember when the Nets traded for him, I was like, geez, this was such a good deal. I was the only guy who could rebound.
Connor, speaking of rebounds, I was at this Nets game where he got his 20,000th career rebound. Short tenure with the Nets, and he had to... Can you name this net? This guy had, unfortunately, a cardiac condition and had to retire early.
Oh, God.
Former Spur is your hint.
LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yes, good call. That's a rebound machine right there.
Big 21, baby. Loved me some LaMarcus Aldridge. He was
Absolutely.
great. He was the leader.
Right. I
He
mean,
was one.
I just said that because Andre Drummond and him are a
Yeah,
parallel in my mind.
that team was fun. Like
Oh my
I know they
gosh.
weren't the best team, but they had some fun players. The
Yeah.
DeAndre, like, just I had the roster
Joe
pulled up
Harris.
here. I was never a big Joe Harris fan, unlike most Net fans.
He has the best 3-point shooting percentage in Nets history. I mean, what's there not to like?
If Seth Curry spent longer with the Nets, I think he would have overtaken that.
I mean, Seth Curry. That's a definition of
Seth Curry just pulls up and shoots.
right.
That team was fun though. Like Bruce Brown, I love Bruce Brown.
That is the ultimate. You know what? No one trade Cam Thomas for 2 first-round picks and get Bruce Brown in the building.
What, Javon Carter with the 2 mismatched shoes?
Oh
Big
no,
zero.
no! You've lost me at Javon Carter.
Warren
Javon
Dragic.
Carter, one of my least favorite Nets of all time. Goran Dragic. Now that draws some similarities to Seth Curry in my mind. I agree.
He's older. He's sluggish.
Yeah, but
yeah.
same idea. 3 points and nothing else.
Yeah.
Nostalgia Nets. That's what we'll call this segment.
I'm thinking of there was another guy who had tattoos on his face. James Johnson.
Yeah. No, James Johnson's similar to. Do you
James
remember?
Johnson is interesting.
Do you
What
remember
about David Duke Jr.? Is he still with the Nets?
He won. He was a dunk contest participant.
He's with the Spurs now.
Was he?
David Duke Jr. was in the dunk contest.
Oh no! I'm thinking of
Dennis Smith Jr.
Yes, DSJ. Do you remember TLC? Timothy Luwawe Cabarrot?
Couldn't tell you that as if my life depended on it.
French basketball player, and the Nets broadcast just loved saying his name. So whenever he got in for mop-up minutes, they'd like make a huge deal out of it. I just remember that for some reason.
I'm looking at the roster right now. James Ennis III. I remember that guy.
What about Chris Chiozza? You remember that?
Chris Chiozza was with the Warriors. Chris Chiozza was like a bubble warrior. That's what I call him.
A bubble warrior.
I remember.
Was he actually a warrior in the bubble, or?
He was a net. He was net during the bubble. Paul Millsap.
Good pull. Was that his last year in the league? No, he had a year in Denver.
I think Paul Millsap, is he still in the NBA?
No.
Yeah, he was becoming the Udonis Haslem, and it was like, all right, you're not as beloved as Udonis Haslem. We got to push you out of here. Patty Mills.
But nobody wanted to be the one to
Patty Mills, one of my favorite NBA players.
Patty Mills.
Got a Patty Mills jersey. That was my favorite. That's my problem. That's my favorite net. Patty Mills.
Ooh.
A lot of people don't like that. I don't understand why. Like, he's the definition of what you want in a basketball player. Like, if I could draw up a basketball player I would root for, it's Patty Mills.
If I could draw up a basketball.
If I could literally take traits, I would pick Patty Mills. A smaller guard who
LeBron, we're good. Patty Mills is here.
Who was it? A guy I'd want to root for, like a disadvantage at height.
Yeah, right.
Speedy is on every play. He's like an old style. He's an old school NBA.
Can I get you a Muggsy Bogues jersey, Connor?
Yeah, sure. I have like 7 inches on Muggsy Bogues actually. No, Patty Mills though was like he was fun.
Who else was on that roster? Keep going. You have?
Let's see. Dayron Langston Galloway. I remember him. Wenyen Gabriel. Good pull. Wenyen Gabriel. You don't remember Wenyen Gabriel?
Mop up guy. Name rings a faint bell.
DeAndre Bembry.
Yes, name also rings a faint bell.
Let's see. We'll do 2022-23 Nets. More recently. Oh, yeah. Nerlens Noel. 10-day contract. Nerlens Noel was with the Nets on a 10-day.
What?
You don't remember that?
No, I do not remember that.
That was actually recently. Alondas Williams.
Oh, do you remember another guy who maybe you don't like as much, but definitely in that 3-point category? Shoot, and now I'm forgetting his name.
You don't want
the Japanese guy.
You don't want an Abe.
Yes, Watanabe.
I have a unit jersey.
Nice,
baby. He was fun.
Yeah, he was fun.
Edmund Sumner.
Yes. Yep.
Speedy spark plug. Drew Smith. I have a photo with Drew Smith. Came in, played some mop-up minutes.
Drew
Love
Smith
Drew
doesn't
Smith.
mean much to me.
Markieff Morris, he spent some time. Dinwiddie, Moses Brown. Moses Brown, I don't remember playing minutes with the Nets.
I also don't remember.
I do not remember Moses Brown playing minutes with the Nets. Armani
I mean, a
Brooks.
lot of these guys did not even come close to a full season with Brooklyn. So.
Armani Brooks.
Just a quick pit stop. A lot of those guys.
He was interesting one. Shumpert, remember Iman Shumpert? Amon Shumpert a few years ago.
No, I do.
Jeff Green.
Yes, Uncle Jeff. Now that's a pull and a half. Uncle Jeff, Paul Millsap, DeAndre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond. Those are a couple.
Theo Pinson.
Yep.
I was listening to Theo Pinson's podcast not too long ago. Because Dinwiddie called out the Nets, so I gave it a listen.
Same with Dorian Finney-Smith. You saw that when he got to LA. He was like, "It's good to not be on the little brother anymore."
No,
that's why I can't root for DFS.
No, with Dinwiddie, I think it had to do with hospitality, the way his family was being treated by the organization or something of that nature. Those are the good old days, or
absolutely
lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple great pulls on that team, but
I hope the diehards enjoyed that segment. If you're a diehard, if you're not, this is the channel for you. This is the show for every single Brooklyn Net fan. So really trying to build this. Appreciate you all. Smash that like button, hit subscribe. Throw your thoughts in the comment section down below. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. He's Josh Woolever. I am your host, Connor Long. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone. And as always, go Nets.